Hey, welcome back to the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. And today we have the Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I'll never say that entire thing completely without stuttering or messing something up. I have no idea why. It's just a lot of words. And this is the first in a series of films. I think there's three. We watched Prince Caspian a while back. I think Voyage of the Dawn Treader is the last one. And this one is the original from 2005. It's 2 hours and 29 minutes long, and it is based on the C.S. Lewis classic, literary classic. It takes place, I believe, during World War II. And if I get this wrong, and it's like World War One by accident, but it should be World War II. And it's the we start off in the bombing of London, the Blitz, and families are sending their kids out of the city to be safe. Parents leaving their kids, just shuffling them off to some stranger's home. In this case, 4 children thrown into a mansion of a professor somewhere out in the countryside. And we get to meet, I can't say them, Lucy, Peter, Edmund, and Susan. And they realize they are bored to death, living in a home in the middle of nowhere, with no friends, no family, and they're not very welcome. It doesn't feel like it anyway, at least according to the woman who's running the place. So they seek whatever distractions they can find. Little Lucy, however, the littlest one with the biggest imagination, happens to stumble upon a wardrobe, a big stand. If you don't know what a wardrobe is, kids, stand alone closet full of coats while they're playing hide and seek. And she hides inside, steps back a little bit behind the coats, and suddenly she tumbles into a world covered in snow. And she's in the middle of a woods, and she meets a creature called a fawn. His name is Mr. Tumnus. Played by James McAvoy, by the way. Professor X, and he's been in so many other things. I can't think of it right now. But he's James McAvoy, looking very faunish in this. I forgot that he was in this up until recently. It's to tell you too much about this would be a disservice if you don't know what the book is about, the story. If you thought, man, that title is way too long, it's got to be complicated and obnoxious. It isn't. It is a treasured tale, and it's a pretty good adaptation. I know we talked about Prince Caspian already. And I kind of get the feeling that with each successive episode or film in the franchise, the effects get a little bit rougher, even though they may improve in quality. The budget is lower as kids get older as well. It's the way it is. Honestly, this would not probably have gotten made if not for the Lord of the Rings trilogy that had finished off in 2005 with The Return of the King, which won an Oscar, which at that point, genre films like that tended to not win Best Picture Oscar awards. So that was kind of a big deal. This was already in the making at the time when it came out, when that won the award, but still, it's still a big deal. We were dealing with an era in which it's kind of a golden age in fantasy film. We were dealing with all these adaptations, fantasy literature made into film, let's just say. We had dystopian stuff like The Hunger Games. Of course, Harry Potter had been made into a 8-film mega franchise because that was the biggest book series in the world, and the biggest film series in the world outside of Star Wars at the time. And Star Wars had just come off a trilogy, and they figured that was done. 2005 was also a big year. 2005 was a pretty big year between Lord of the Rings, the end of the second Star Wars trilogy, and we didn't know we were getting any more after that, and the beginning of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, which is, even if they just made just this book, that would have been fine. I think it's the only one I read as a kid. I don't think I read the sequels. But this was like a must read when you're a kid, at least one that's my age. We won't talk about how old I am, but it's a kind of thing where if you're not aware of this, it's full of Christian allegory. There's a lion in this who is the leader of a great army for good, fighting against the White Witch who has turned Narnia into a winter, not so wonderful wonderland, played by Tilda Swinton. And the big lion, brave big lion, he's humongous, is Aslan, and he is voiced by Liam Neeson. So yeah, we're getting some pretty big names in here. Uh, so just in case you didn't know, and this is all I'm going to really tell you about the allegory, because you know what, there's other people who've delved into this in detail in a much better way than I could ever do it. So yes, Aslan is the Christ figure in this, who is meant to sacrifice himself for humanity. Spoiler, and kind of know, if you know the Jesus story, then you kind of know how that ends. But but it can be, even if you're not into the whole Christian allegory thing, you can still enjoy this as a very big fantasy adventure. It's for kids hanging out with beavers and fighting minotaurs. I mean, come on, it's crazy. It's just some weird, wild stuff. It's a yeah. There's a lot to look at. The effects was done by Weta, who had just come off of doing Lord of the Rings trilogy, and so many other things. But they tapped them. This is a Disney film. For some reason I thought that it was a 20th Century Fox acquisition. No, this was a Disney and Walden Media conglomeration kind of thing. And it makes for good adventure. I don't think it lives up to the quality of Lord of the Rings trilogy or even the Harry Potter films. But hey, they were cashing in on some of this old literature. C.S. Lewis was a contemporary of Tolkien, I believe, and they knew each other quite well. And so it's strange, like a century later, almost a century later, that their books are made into major motion picture franchises. And I think this did well. I could probably look, but I don't think it did so well that they were like, oh my god, we got to keep doing more of these sequels. Like, let's split one of the movies into two. No, that's a Peter Jackson thing. So yeah, they just sort of cranked out the other two, going, okay, we did them. But when this was announced, it's like it was a big freaking deal. So it's good fun. It's more kid friendly than, say, a Lord of the Rings film. It doesn't have too many scary elements. There's battles happening in it with creatures, a rhinoceros, like I said, minotaurs, and they're all waving swords at each other. And the villain, the White Witch, when she stabs somebody with her sword, she just turns them to stone. So it's not like she starts hacking people up with that thing, even though she uses it quite a lot. Our hero Peter rides a unicorn, so that's neat. I mean, we're two days in a row I'm watching movies that take place in snowy lands and are full of great magical fantasy, and it's kind of great. Anyway, I mean, I enjoy this movie. It's just maybe it's not my favorite. It's not the kind of thing I'm like, oh, you know what? It's a slow day. Let me turn on The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. It is 2.5 hours long, and it sometimes drags a bit, but has good humor. The kids are great. They're actually usually pretty hard on kid actors, and they're all really good for their age and for what they have to do. They're really good. So good for them. For pick, and also for the people who are casting, for picking out the right kids to take on these roles. There's a bunch of familiar faces, and Jim Broadbent shows up in this, and it's very British. So if you're British, you'll probably appreciate some of the references, more the cultural references, cricket and tea and stuff like that. But if you're looking for another fantasy trilogy of films on Disney Plus to watch that's beyond all the Star Wars and the Marvel and everything else, you might get a kick out of this. Pre-teens, early teens might be able to you know, find something a little bit new that they may not have seen yet. Because again, this was made 17 years ago. This came out 17 years ago, and so there's a lot of kids who have no idea what this is, and they don't even probably bother suggesting reading this in school. Unless they went to church, you probably never heard of it. And I think some churches today would kind of look at this and go, oh, there's monsters in this. Oh, that must be demons and so scary. But I don't know. C.S. Lewis has a pretty good track record, so, you know, give him the benefit of the doubt. But yeah, it's I recommend it if you get a chance to watch it. I don't. Again, you'll have to see my other review about Prince Caspian. I don't even remember what I thought about that. I guess it was a kind of film where it's just like, it's there. I don't know. But we'll have Voyage of the Dawn Treader at some point, I'm sure. And then we'll finish off that trilogy. Out of order, but still. Let's pick tomorrow's episode.
387.
387. 387. Come on. 3, 8. Oh, man. We're getting 3 movies in a row. And this is a sequel. I'm not sure if this is animated or not, or if this might be one of those, like, really unsettling type of sequels that is, yeah, you know what, I don't know, I can't say. There's a bug. I can't say. I honestly, but I think this is, if it's what I think it is, it could be in for a bit of a ride. Bug. Anyway, we're going to be this is what we're doing tomorrow. We are returning to Oz. Return to Oz is what we're seeing next on the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. Return to Oz. I don't think I've seen it. No, I don't think I have. If I have, I completely erased it from my mind, or it just erased itself because, again, old. So, I'll see you back here tomorrow with Return to Oz on the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. See ya.